I want to bring in Ambassador Suzan Johnson-Cook. She's a former chaplain for the NYPD and former U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom at the State Department. Ambassador, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk to you as if you were in your former job as the NYPD chaplain. There are two cops who were just shot. One shot in the face, one shot in the shoulder. I have to imagine that officers there are upset. Officers there are nervous. How would you minister right now to these officers, not just in Ferguson, but these surrounding communities who are going there to police right now?
A lot of stomachs are turning right now. Police officers, police departments, and community. And I think, Martin Luther King said, the measure of a man, the measure of a country is not where you stand in moments of comfort, but where you stand in moments of crisis. We've got a race crisis on our hands. Healing only begins, and ministry only begins when relationships are developed. I think we have to look at how do we, long-term and immediately short-term, begin to develop relationships between community and police departments that begin to heal a community and a nation. Law enforcement is important, so we can't, violence is never condoned. And so communities need law enforcement. If we don't have community leaders, then it's going to come from the state or the National Guard. We don't want that as well. So we're going to have to do some things. Number one, what New York City has to its credit is auxiliary police officers. We're not full police officers, but it gives community leaders a chance to understand the department and be a resource that communities can come to. The second is training. That's important for officers, but also for community leaders. And then the third thing is replacement. We have to have some people who can replace officers who are resigning, and hopefully those will be coming from the community as well. But there's a training process before you become a law enforcement agent. So I think we have to do a lot of healing, a lot of training, a lot of preparation for short-term and long-term.
Officers did not return fire when two of their own were shot on the street. Again, one in the face, one in the shoulder, serious injuries. They didn't fire at anybody that night, so they did show some restraint, so something's getting through there.
Yeah, protests are not wrong, but violence is. I think everyone needs to get involved at the community level, at the national level, and begin to have some real race discussions. People don't want to deal with race is a problem in America.
No, you want to talk about the real issues, right?
Yeah, the real issues.
You would think that everyone wants to talk about the real issues. I was a little surprised, frankly, and I was covering it sort of overnight after the shooting. The first response from protesters was, it wasn't us, it wasn't us, it wasn't us. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I hope these officers are okay. It wasn't us, and I was a little surprised by that. Now, granted, there was a vigil last night, and community leaders came out and spoke eloquently about it, but it wasn't widely attended.
I think we have to look at protesters are saying that something is really wrong, and it's been going on far too long. How do we begin the healing? Let community leaders now sit down with the community and with law enforcement. Let's begin to say, how do we forge ahead?
Forging ahead is a key here. Do you think it's important for the Ferguson Police Department itself to take a step back from the protests, which they have? They've turned over the policing to the county and also the highway patrol. I
think the resignations that happen is a step that in acknowledging that something has severely been wrong, and it's a first step. What are the second steps? The training I talked about, because you have to have people who replace officers who have resigned. You have to have people who are ready. That's not happened. So it's going to be continuing violence, which I do not condone. And I think we have to really look at the crisis here. We've been looking at the crisis in ISIS overseas, which is certainly an international crisis, but we've got a crisis right here at home.
People are trying to focus on it. I know you're heavily involved, so thanks for being with us.